Good morning, Zio here, and today we're talking about game prices. Mainly because of that article we looked at the other day. See, yesterday was supposed to be that, except for this other thing came up with WoW, so we're doing it today with, and it's spawning from the NBA 2K 21. Gosh, I can't remember its name. Anyway, that article where the game is going to be priced $70 for next generation. So, with all that, let's get into it, shall we? So, the question of whether games should increase in price is, I guess you can say, a polarizing thing. Like, I got how we don't want it to increase in price, right? At the same time, it seems to be more of a nuanced answer to said question that is kind of hard to answer just straight up because there's so many different variables that honestly would I guess allow a price to be a price. I don't know. I got nothing. I'm sorry. That's it. We're done. Okay. No, I'm just kidding. Anyway, no, but seriously, there's a lot more to it. And honestly, I think more of a dynamic pricing scheme would seem to be better put, would be in, I guess, a better way to go about doing things, right? Because as things are right now, things are kind of rigid. It's $60, right? You expect a new game to come out at 60. For me, that is, when you add tax, 65 and 50 or 60 cents, something like that, when you add taxes to it. So, that's how much a new game for me right now will cost at the $59.99 price tag, about 65 and some change. And for that to go up to $70, well, that's going to mean it's now 75 and some change. It goes up a good $10 for me as well. Of course, that's going to be like that across the board. And if you got lower taxes, then you're not paying as much as I am, which is cool. We, not going to lie, we kind of used to cross the border specifically because we have a town that lies right on the border between states where the other state had a much less tax rate, that people would literally just go right across the border into that part of town to purchase things and then come back, to where they have now caused that entire city to essentially be under the same tax bracket as we are here. So, that's how they fix that. Gosh, I love it when we have loopholes that we can exploit in real life. Anyway, but seriously, dynamic price changes. Right here, we're looking at sort of this chart that somebody has made, and since I can't math, I'm not going to sit here and be able to properly check this. But essentially, this is somewhat of what games costed at, the system's launch, essentially. And then when you add for inflation in December 10, or December 2010, what those games would cost, right? And just going back in my own memory of how older games cost, there were games over $60 for some of these older consoles. I vividly remember not being able to afford it or talk my parents into buying them because they cost so much. And when it comes to a game, I think it really just depends on the game itself. There's so many different factors when it comes into it. But let's just take a look at these price schemes before we explore that aspect real quick. But, if we're looking at the screen here, we got the Nintendo Entertainment System, the NES. Games at launch cost about $29 to $49. Adjusted for inflation, that's around $59 to $99. That's a huge... if that's anyway, that's quite a bit. Would you actually think that an NES game would cost around $100? Absolutely, especially if you are into old games and go looking for them. I mean, I've got a copy of Mega Man X 2 and 3. 3 I found at a flea market, and it's seen better days. It works. However, its art is a bit like somebody took a key or something and sliced where the the sticker art on the cartridge is, and it's seen better days on that front. But other than that, it's a good working copy. Now, these copies I have seen when I've looked for them, and it's been a good long while since I've looked for them, anywhere from 100 to 200 on places like eBay and stuff. But those are more mint condition copies, of course. The copy I got probably wouldn't go for that much, just because of how I would have to get that fixed. That little bit of where the art is, where it says Mega Man X 3 on the top. Well, I would have to get that fixed, replaced somehow. But anyway, the copy for some of these old games go for quite a bit in today's market because of collectors and such. Of course, if you're adjusting for inflation back then and stuff, it's quite a bit. I mean, $60 in the 90s or the 80s isn't $60 today. It's a lot more. But you're looking at Super NES, 1991, 49 to 59. You're looking about 80 to 96. N64, 1996, 49. That's a 69. PS2, 63 when adjusted. Xbox 360, 67. This is why I'm not 100% sure on this thing. But anyway, because 360 wasn't that long ago, or at least it don't feel like it was that long ago. 360 games, you can find them probably very cheaply still, depending on the game, of course. But yeah, anyway, to continue. But so I went ahead and I scoured the internet for some images. Not really that hard. You type it into Google and bring up some stuff. But you've got some old Toys R Us magazine inserts. And to be totally honest, I could... You know what? Give me 1 second. So I went digging through an old Nintendo Power behind me, just out of curiosity, see if there were prices in there. There's not. I would have had to have found probably a Game Informer or something. I don't know. Anyway, but yeah, we've got this to look at. But, you can clearly see we've got games priced at different prices, right? You got Super Street Fighter here at 69, Super Metroid at 59. NBA Jam at 64, the hockey one that I can't really read its thing at 49. It's going to say that's the Legend of Gaia, I believe, at 69. Donkey Kong Country at 59. And these were prices back then, right? You've got the Super NES All-Star set, which is the console and a game for like $129. A console costing you $129. Come on, can you believe that? Anyway, Super Game Boy, which was a pretty neat piece of hardware, by the way, for $59. You've got some Game Boy games over here at $29, $19, and $29. Good Game Boy games, by the way. But yeah, we can go over here and take a look at the PlayStation. Analog sticks for $69, controller pads at $24, memory cards at $24, the PlayStation itself being $200, Twisted Metal at $47, NHL at $42, Crash $42, Mortal Kombat at $47. Just various things here. You've got the Genesis at $59 and $69. You've got a $39 down here as well. These prices are kind of what I would call somewhat dynamic. There wasn't exactly there wasn't like a actual thing where everything came out at this price kind of deal, but it kind of depended on, I guess, the series, the kind of game it was, and other stuff like, all these sports games from EA being at 59 exactly on the dot, right? Meanwhile, you've got Mortal Kombat coming out here at 69, and then you've got this basketball game, Hang Time, coming out at 69, which I believe is not an EA title. But yeah, see, that seemed to be the thing that you had. You sort of had somewhat of a dynamic pricing based on sort of the game, what it had to offer, and of course the company that was doing the offering. But yeah, you've got Marvel Superheroes at 59, Street Fighter Alpha 2 at 69, Madden at 59, again with the EAs. Donkey Kong Country 3 at 59, Miss Pac-Man for 39, Ultimate Mortal Kombat, which again is 69, just as it is over here for the Genesis. You got the Super Game Boy over here for 39. What was it earlier? I don't remember now. Super Game Boy was 59, so it's come down in price since that posting. But Donkey Kong Country 2 at 52. 52, isn't that just an odd number? Yoshi's Island, which I did get for a Christmas present, by the way. I vaguely remember me and my older brother just disappearing to the room and playing Yoshi's Island all day Christmas morning. But yeah, games sort of had more of a dynamic pricing to them compared to right now. Now, AAA publisher launches a game. Bethesda, EA, Activision, whoever, it's probably a $59.99 game, whether it deserves it or not. We can see in current times, the last game that launched that was probably nowhere near worth $60, Fallout 76, coming out for $60, selling a very expensive collector's edition. A lot of Fallout from all that. I have videos on that, go check them out. Anyway, if you don't know what I'm talking about. But then that game quickly, within a week or two, going straight down to bargain price 39 or 30 to 29, 39, something like that. Super cheap, like $20 cheaper than when it released just a week prior. Whew. Talk about a lot of ticked off people. And there were. I mean, a game they just paid full price for being slashed and reduced massively within a week of it coming out because the game was not what it was, lived up to be. And I think, going back to sort of a pricing scheme like that, it is worth going back to. When you got games like, say, when Skyrim came out or something, that game, people would have paid $70-$80 for that, no doubt. I probably would have had no problem paying $70-$80 for that game without even a second thought because of the amount of time and energy I spent into it. There's this thing where people have talked about how you can justify whether or not a game was worth it by how many hours you play in it versus how much you paid for it, right? So essentially like dollar per hour kind of deal. When you take something like Skyrim, you paid $60 for it, and then you put in 120 hours, 200 hours into it or more, you got pennies on the dollar per hour of gameplay that you've put into that game. And definitely a good investment on the player's part, right? So I wouldn't be surprised to actually pay $70 or $80 for the newest iteration of that series, because chances are you're going to know that you're going to get every bit of a bang for that buck that you spent on it. But then when you take something like Madden or what was it we just talked about, NBA 2K 21 or something, right? Or any of the current sports titles from EA and stuff, right? I would never pay full $70 for any of those titles. And any of you people who do that, I am so sorry, but you guys are idiots. No, just straight up, hands down, you're not too bright. That is the only purchase you ever make on a game system, and that is just an assumption I will be proud to say that I am making right now, because those games are not worth that price, especially when you add in other things. Like I said, this idea of pricing is so much more nuanced, because then you have to think about additional things like microtransactions. When you take FIFA or any of the football games or the basketball games current day, you've got the FIFA Ultimate Team package deal now, right? That's what you're getting. You're going to have to spend money on these card packs for microtransactions just to get yourself LeBron James or whoever it is that you want in that particular game, in order to actually have them on your team and have a great team that can smack other people around and win and all this other stuff. And that's something you're going to have to dump into that game. Would you pay $60 and then on top of that pay another $130 just to get your ultimate team or more? when you think about it straight off, you're probably going to say, no, I would never do that. But in reality, that's exactly what you're doing. It may be small over time deal. Maybe you buy a pack a week or something, or 10 packs a week for at whatever exchange rate it's going. So it doesn't seem like it's a whole lot. But at the end of the day, when the new game comes out next year, if you were to go back and actually look at how much money you dumped into that game, would it have been satisfying? Would it have been worth the money? Would you come out and go, oh, I spent another $60 on this game after I already paid 64 for like a total of 120? Was it worth spending that much money on it? That's more of a personal question, of course. I can't really sit here and assume whether or not it is, because for one person it might be, for another it may not be. But gosh, I just lost my train of thought. Where was I? Anyway, like when you factor in things like microtransactions and other things, that should also go into the determination of whether or not a price is appropriate. When you see a lot of indie games, they don't always come out, of course, at the $60 price tag because, well, indie game. It's a small developer. The game may be worth $60. Like, I have no idea what the price of Super Meat Boy was, but that turned into like almost an immediate hit, right? Or it did eventually became the talk of the town. Regardless of whatever its price of, it probably should have been more expensive. Just saying. People would have still bought it, but then again, being an unknown developer or a small developer, they may not have had enough clout to really justify that kind of pricing either. So, different factors, different things, and it all, of course, depends on the games. Like I was saying, sports games, probably not $70. NBA 2K21, 70 is not gonna cause me to want to go play that game, especially when I know there are microtransactions involved. There are card packs. I mean, heck, they're giving them away for free as an incentive for you to go pre-order the dang thing. With a $100 special edition, so you can actually get the upgrade or downgrade depending on which one you get, for the opposite or for the other generation of system, whether it's getting the Xbox version, or gosh, I can't even think. I'm sticking with PlayStation. If you get the PS5, you get the PS4 basic version. If you get the PS4, you get the PS5 basic version. But you got to spend $100 for that. That's not worth it, right? That's definitely not worth it in my opinion. But yeah, this idea of games going up to $70, is that a big deal? No, it's not. Not in my opinion. You want to get upset about it, that's fine. That's your prerogative. I'm not really going to get too upset about it. If they try to sell me, a game that I really don't think should be worth $70, absolutely, I'm not going to pay for it. I will just miss out until the thing goes on sale 2 weeks later, like Fallout 76, But seriously, games are more expensive to make these days. That's honestly just a fact. Maybe not so much in the indie scene or whatnot. There have been games out there that have done incredibly well that were made with like a one-man team or a two-man team out there. Those games do happen, and then they wind up becoming just straight up classics, essentially, that everybody loves for one reason or another, that everybody played for a very long time. Meanwhile, you've got other games that have much larger teams, much larger budgets. Can they trim, in certain spots? Yeah, they can. You also have to, of course, take into other factors when it comes to making a game, like the time it took to make it, how much resources were involved in making said game. And then, you also have to wrestle with the idea of crunch. As much as people love or hate to hear or talk about crunch, you got to think about that sort of thing too. Back in the day, developers and stuff, they would crunch was a thing, right? You know, it's a thing in a lot of industries. We did talk about this in length at one point in time. Nobody wanted to hear about it, apparently, but it is something we talked about in length at one point in time. But, you know, back in this day and age here that we're looking at on the screen, that is how we came with some of the, you know, some of the more, you know, the classics games that anyone and everyone worth their salt as a gamer probably know, who grew up in that age, of course. Maybe not newer gamers, but you know, you say Chrono Trigger, that was a team on a deadline with crunch involved. You talk about a lot of these other games, that sort of thing did happen, and they, you know, worked from the office. They lived at the office. Well, of course they worked from the office, but they practically lived at the office for months at a time to get the game out the door on time. You know, you've got all these different factors to put into when it comes to pricing a game. If gaming companies want to put it up $70, then that's fine. Some games I think deserve to be $70 or $80. Other games, on the other hand, no, not so much. They don't deserve that price point, which I like more of a dynamic price. You know, if a company wants to come out, like say EA and a lot of these, they're all $59 for the thing. If everyone's happy with paying for it, it will stay $59. But if people would, I don't know, vote with their flipping wallets, it'd be real nice if, you know, you sports fans could get on board with that notion. You know, maybe they'll drop it down and start releasing games at $49 or $39 because, you know, the added microtransactions in it, they're going to make up for it, definitely, just out of that alone. I mean, FIFA Ultimate Team stuff, that was a huge money maker right there, to the point that there are governments out there now banning that sort of thing, like the Belgian government, who've stepped in to ban the, you know, loot boxes, and if you don't remove them from your game, you get a fine. And EA is like, okay, we'll pay the fine because we're making so much money off the packs that they can easily throw a teeny tiny bit of that money at a fine that they're being fined. That's, you know, ultimately meaningless to them unless all countries get on board with that that kind of mindset, to the point that it actually costs them more money to pay the fines than it would be to implement the practice, you know. But anyway, let me know what you think about all this down in the comments below. I think I've rambled on long enough on this. I think I've said my piece. If not, we'll come back with another video about it. But yeah, let me know what you think down in the comments below, and I will talk to you later. See ya. Hey, thanks for watching. Don't forget to leave a comment, smash that like button, and always subscribe for more. And of course, there are other videos floating around somewhere on the screen, so click one of those and see if you can find something that suits your fancy. Till then, I'll see you later. Bye.